Brian Fritz here with Noam Dar as we get set for the Cruiserweight Classic tournament, one of the participants in there. So what's the experience been like to know that you're going to be part of this tournament and see all the other participants from all around the world that are a part of it as well?
It's very exciting. Obviously, you said there's people from all over the world, and some of these guys are complete world-class talents. So to be in the mix amongst these people, it's a fantastic opportunity, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you're the youngest guy in this tournament, right? You're 22 years old, is that correct?
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't lead to inexperience when it comes to important points in the tournament. But I'm used to being the youngest guy in a lot of situations, for my entire career. So I can hopefully use it as a positive.
Do people kind of know that you're the youngest guy and be like, hey, we got the young guy over here, we got the youngster, and have a little fun with that?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Because I've been doing this since I've certainly been around wrestling since I was 13. So every time I meet people that I, see them down the road, like 6 months, a couple of years, and they're always asking, hey, what age are you now, bro? And I'm still young. So a lot of people don't feel like I don't age. I'm Benjamin Button, I'm going backwards. So but hopefully, like I said, that won't become a major factor, and hopefully I've got enough experience to match up against some of these guys if need be.
So you've been around wrestling since you were 13, like you said, but when did you have your first match? What age?
My first match, I was like 2 weeks before turning 15. It was in a small kind of community centre in Scotland. It was like a trainee kind of show, family and friends, and I got to wrestle one of my coaches, so obviously I was really well looked after. But yeah, since that age, I've been most weekends either wrestling or helping out at shows, or watching shows, or just being at training.
So what was it like that first time, no matter how small the crowd was, to go out there in front of a crowd knowing that this is what you wanted to do, and to get that opportunity to do it for that first time?
It was such a blur. For me, there might have, in my head, if I look back, it feels like there was 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, because I've seen the footage of it. But it was such
They don't fit 10,000 people in the rec center?
They don't. So it didn't feel like you said, it's always what you always wanted to do. So it felt right, but then there was a lot of times where I've had matches much more recent that I've felt like, most nervous I've ever been. And I wish I could really focus on that original feeling of just before going out in my first match to compare the nerves. I think that would help me nowadays. But at the time, obviously, you're just caught up in a whirlwind and you don't have time to stop and reflect and soak it all in.
So explain your style, because when it comes to cruiserweights, there are so many different styles that are out there, between strong style and lucha libre, high flying. There's so many different things, but correct me if I'm wrong, you're a little bit more of a mat technician, correct?
Well, when the way I was trained was, for the first 6 months of my training, they didn't allow us, or the class I was in the ring. The ring was seen as a privilege, so we spent a lot of times on the mat and just learning, British wrestling style, kind of hold for hold, that kind of mentality of a match. And probably since then, even as I've progressed and learned from different people, I've not really found a style that suited me better than this one does, and I just try and keep everything as realistic as I can. So if I know that one weekend I can be fighting some guy that's 6'5" and 100 kilos, and then the next night I can be fighting someone my weight class. So I need to be able to go in there and mix it up with everybody. For me, that's what being a professional wrestler is, to go on with anyone.
And it's funny because in talking to Zack Sabre Jr., and when you talk to any of the British wrestlers, more so than anybody else, obviously people want to make it look as good as possible. Yeah. But I think the big thing when it comes to people that come from the UK are just making it look very real, keeping it to a sport. Why is that when it comes to so much the style? Is it just kind of the way you guys are brought up, or just it's something that just feels right for you?
I think it's the heavy influence, obviously, from the World of Sport era. So, beyond the big daddies and the giant haystacks and stuff, guys like Johnny Saint, Steve Gray, and then obviously people like William Regal, Robbie Brookside. All these people were brought into the business that as a sport, and it should be treated as such. And at the time, World of Sport wrestling on the TV was insanely popular. It was on Saturday afternoons, before the FA Cup. It was, people would go to these events like a true sporting event, and they would turn up, and if you watch any of the old tapes, you front row, second row, third row, people in suits and dresses. So that kind of I guess, a kind of regality to wrestling as an entertainment is really kind of still carried over through the generations. Not as much, obviously, as it was back then, but to keep that alive in any element, I think, is the responsibility of a British wrestler.
So you mentioned a couple of guys there that are around here. When it comes to Robbie Brookside and William Regal, what's it like for you when you get in a room with those guys and are able to have a conversation with them?
I mean, it's brilliant to come here and you essentially feel like you have. It's like it's like a kind of home touch almost, that you can come to WWE and William Regal and Robbie Brookside are the coaches, and you feel like you have that connection straight away. And to have that connection means that you can hopefully develop more and come out your shell. And to have them here, and that this people that you want to share the same perceptions with, it's brilliant.
So tell me what it was like when you got the call that said, hey, we're going to do this Cruiserweight Classic tournament. We're going to have 32 participants, and you're going to be one of them. I mean,
I missed the initial call. Of
course you did.
Because why wouldn't I? So I missed that initial call because me and a group of my mates was playing FIFA 16, on the PlayStation 4. And then when I went back to my bag to check my phone, obviously I'd seen the area code, and then phoned back straight away, and it was Mr. Regal that contacted me, and he kind of filled me in and told me that what the WWE want to do with this tournament and where it's looking to go. And it was overwhelming at first, and it took a while to settle in. And I'm very much like, once I get there, I'll believe. Once I was here, it all set in at once, and the kind of months of anticipation just hit me. So that was like an anxious time between January, I think I got the call, and then obviously up to now, to actually getting here and getting the feet under the table.
That's kind of the way wrestling business is, though. You hear stuff, but you don't believe it until it actually happens.
We were, again, like the training school that I had, that was really, really hammered into us, that things change, don't get your hopes up, keep your feet in the ground, and all really good life lessons in general. But it was so, amplified that it got to the point where it could almost be counterproductive, where somebody would tell you something, like they would tell you the sky's blue, and you're like, oh, yeah, the sky's blue, sure, wait, and I'll just look up and see. It got to that point. So, but I think it helps me. It helps my the way I am as a person. It's good for me to have that.
Was it good having somebody that in the tournament as well, like Zack Sabre Jr., because you've obviously been around him for years. You guys have been on the road together and everything. And tell me what that experience is like in knowing Zack and kind of having, a partner on the road that's been so experienced, and having him, part of this tournament too.
It's brilliant. I was lucky to meet Zack when I was 14. He was doing a lot of shows up in Scotland, but he was more coming in to do kind of weekend and sometimes week-long training seminars, and he would take a lot of us, so I learnt a lot off him from a very young age, and he was always he never patronised me, since day one. He would always give everyone the equal kind of time when he was training people, and that really stuck with me, obviously, that if he showed me that respect when I was, just in the door, that's always carried over well, and we've been close friends since, and he's still someone I look up to greatly, and I think he's one of the best in the world.
Let's talk about somebody that you're very familiar with, and that is Drew Galloway. So you have an opportunity to work with him, in ICW and some other places. So what's it been like to be able to get in the ring with Drew?
To get in with Drew, he's one of the premier athletes in the world. He's fantastic, a fantastic person and out the ring. And there's nobody that will give you a more intense fight. And we've had some, what I feel have been really good matches, and to be able to go in with someone that size and still work a competitive match is a lot of fun, and it's different. Drew is someone that just as he got signed to WWE, it was just when I was thinking about starting to train, and obviously we both come from Ayr in Scotland, so I never really got to meet him, but there was one time where he done a charity match for children in need. He came to my high school and he done a charity wrestling match against Mr. McLean, who was my IT and computing teacher, who also used to be a professional bodybuilder. And Drew beat him up for 15 minutes, and we all cheered along, and it was good, a good day for charity. And then I got to meet him for a little brief second after that. And then years later, once he came back onto the independents and back to ICW, that's when I got to know him as a person. We kind of got close because, you know, obviously we lived like 10 minutes away from each other, and I told him that story straight away. That the first time I seen him, he was beating up one of my favourite teachers.
But that's got to be cool to see somebody so young, you know, and then be able to have an opportunity, you know, years later, you know, that you know, lived in the same town as you and somebody you looked up to,
Yeah.
and say, now I get to go in the ring with him. And unfortunately, Drew's probably going to pound on you a little bit because he's a big dude. But to be able to have that opportunity has got to be really, really cool.
It's a nice, you know, kind of closure, for lack of a better term, to be able to have such a kind of linear story with one person. So it's really good, and Drew's someone that's helped me loads as well professionally. So I mean, when he didn't need to, so it's really good, and you know, excited to kind of continue working with him in the future.
Somebody else you got an opportunity to work with a few years ago was AJ Styles. So what was that experience like getting in the ring with AJ, especially somebody now that has been around the world, kind of recreated himself, and now he's in WWE and doing extremely well?
AJ was one of my heroes growing up. There's just so much about him that I connected to as a fan, and to wrestle him. I wrestled him in 2012, and it was actually in my hometown. So it was just so much about that was such a surreal experience, and you know, to be able to do that at any point in your career is fantastic. But I was so lucky to do it at a young age and get that learning experience. And after the match, AJ got on the microphone and he said that he believes that in 5 years' time, he and I will have the rematch, and it'll be on a much grander scale. So hopefully, you know, I've got till 2017 to make his words true. But if not, it's something down the line that I'd love to do, to compete against him, especially in a WWE ring.
And that's the cool thing too, is that like we talk about opportunities like that. And in the past, maybe you say it's something that's nice and something to work for, but you wonder how realistic it can be. Mm-hmm. This is something that is actually realistic, and that you could be working for WWE come 2017.
It's crazy to get this, you know, a foot in the door essentially, just now at such a young age, and in such a unique, fantastic opportunity. Obviously, the Cruiserweight Classic, the first ever, you know, time they've done this, to be part of that kind of inception of something so new and different it's overwhelming.
Yeah, you know, and get back to Drew too. You know, we talk about the matches with you. I mean, the guy's a little bit crazy, as we know. What's it like, you know, when we talk about ICW and to see what they've done, where that group has gone, and then to see kind of the matches that he's done as well? Because I think just recently there was a match where he was fighting somebody down the street.
Yeah. That's ICW is you know, for lack of a better term, an insane place for so many different reasons. It's probably the company that I would call my home promotion. I've been there since 2009 when it had its rebirth, and I was maybe 15 or 16. So to be able to develop as a performer whilst this promotion also developed, you know, as a fantastic entity, is something that's really good for me, to be able to kind of have that connection to a place that I work. And also the locker room is such a tight-knit community. We're all really close friends. We all want to help each other. We all want to get each other to get better. Sometimes we'll take each other down the high street and fight until the police come. But these are the mental things that happen at ICW, and now they're starting to really cater for lots of different audiences. With the on-demand service, obviously, people under 18 can watch it. There's some of the shows are now for 14s and over. We've actually started doing some totally family-friendly shows, so just, you know, trying to nail every kind of demographic, and that's again why it's doing so well with the numbers.
So how many times have you been a part of a show and the police have gotten involved and tried to say, hey, what's going on here?
That's happened at least 4 or 5 times. And then there was one time where the police were actually, you know, it wasn't the police, it was actors dressed as policemen, but they'd done a setup where the police actually came in and arrested someone. But obviously a lot of us weren't clued up to this, and we just saw it from the monitor that he's just been arrested for fighting in the street. So it's just crazy. That's the thing. Like, Scotland is, like, I mean, it's obviously an exciting country and stuff happen, but if there's a fight in the street in Glasgow city centre, the police are all over it straight away because, you know, of the kind of type of place it is. So, but when the guys are in spandex, then it just becomes a bit of a laugh.
So what's it like, going into this tournament with so many different people from so many different countries, and you're representing Scotland and also representing Israel because that's where you were born?
Yep, that's right. My dad is Israeli and my mum's Scottish. Moved to Scotland when I was 5. Both of the countries there's a lot of similarities between them. They both have really, really strong national identity. They're both kind of proud of their people and proud of the nation. So to be able to represent two countries, of that character is fantastic. I've got family, obviously, in Israel, and I've got my immediate family in Scotland. So to be able to represent them and make them proud is good. And I've done some media for, Israeli outlets, and everyone seems to be super positive and excited, and they're really amplifying this whole being the first Israeli born to wrestle for the WWE. So it's really good, and I hope I can just keep making both nations proud.
So how do you like the United States? Because you've been here a couple of times now, I believe. So how do you like the culture here?
I love America. I love how enthusiastic everyone is. I love the accessibility of everything. It's really, easy to get to where you're going or to get what you need. Because I'm from a really small village in Scotland, so I'm used to things shutting at 5 o'clock, 5:30. There being one shop in the little village that I live in. So to be here and everything is just, on a much grander scale, I really enjoy it here.
Can you find a good drink here like you can in Scotland, though?
Well, you can find a drink, all right, but yesterday I actually asked the lady at the hotel. I was asking for a friend, I wasn't asking for me. I was asking if the bar is 24 hours in the hotel. She was like, oh God, no, 12 p.m. all night? Oh no, that'd be terrible. But whereas in Scotland, a 24-hour bar is almost compulsory, I think. So, but no, I've actually not had a chance to go out and have a few beers in Orlando. I went out last night to get some food and stuff, and it looks like a nice area to kind of chill out.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So, you just got to get used to the weather a little bit. So is it fair to say that obviously as you continue with your career that your goal is to get to WWE, or do you have another goal in mind right now outside of obviously, doing your best and trying to win the Cruiserweight Classic?
WWE's always been the place that I wanted to be from day one. It was the only wrestling really I watched, for the most of my kind of since I was a fan, really. That's what introduced me to wrestling was WWE. I was quite late to being a wrestling fan. The first WrestleMania I watched was WrestleMania 20, which is obviously quite recent, but since then I've been hooked, and it's always been, my favourite type of wrestling. So there's obviously plenty of goals that people want to accomplish in wrestling, but the ultimate goal is to be here. So I would never do anything to deter from that.
Well, best of luck in the tournament, and hopefully we'll be seeing you do well there and have a future in the WWE really soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man.